our next meeting, then, the results of these ballots will be available for certification. At this point, I'd like to open up, we're going to have 5 minutes of public comment from any individuals that would like to talk about the presentations we heard today or any other business that they'd like brought before the board. And I know Ray is, I have one from Ray here, a request to speak. Ray, would you like to do that?
My name is Ray Rosenberger. My address is 6232 North Canterbury Road, Parma, Ohio. I just have a couple of comments and then a prepared comment. With regards to the presentations that are here today, I know they all work. They work to some degree. They must be in use. What I didn't quite understand on the unit being presented over here is that they're saying that a handicapped voter would have to first operate the machine to generate the ballot, and then after the ballot is generated, they then would have to go over to the actual recording unit and put the ballot in. So I just envision that as a difficult task.
Ray, so the record's clear, you're referring to the ES&S equipment.
Yes, yes. It's getting a little confusing, so yes, it's ES&S equipment. That it's actually a two-stage process and not really linked to one another. So you could develop or have an error on the first one and subsequently have it accepted on the second one or vice versa. The second thing that I can share with you from the observations is I don't know how this equipment would work in some of our polling locations, particularly when I was out in the city of Euclid. It was extremely crowded. There were a lot of small polling locations. And so I think that has to be thoroughly researched because of the privacy issue, the number of voters, the rate of reject, the rate of asking for the ballots to replace the ones that maybe are kicked out. Before making a decision on this equipment, it might be beneficial to let people who have never seen it before actually try and use it under a mock type of election because of the commitment that you're making and the dollars that will be investing. Technical support, I would suggest that you include a penalty clause for responsiveness, and that is every hour or half hour that passes after a technical support call has been placed, that a penalty is invoked if in fact you did not receive that. And that is something that is included in business contracts, particularly with outside technical support. Third party, having multiple vendors involved causes me concern, and I've been in that situation. One takes care of the software, one supports this piece of hardware, and there's another one supporting this. And what happens is when something doesn't work, finger pointing starts, and it becomes extremely difficult to locate the source of the problem. And with the presentation that was made over here on the Premier system, and I saw the ballot being changed on the screen, it now in essence disagrees with the hard copy ballot. And I know it works, I know they have a process, people do it, but I have an original that is now different than the actual ballot that's being counted. And I don't know how that's addressed. My prepared comment to you, and understanding, staying within the 5 minutes, what are the goals that Willie's endeavor to purchase additional equipment? What is wrong with what we have? Too many undervotes? Too many overvotes? Have we identified exactly what the problems are? And in response to these problems, do we need a sledgehammer or do we need a fly swatter? And putting it another way, if we don't know where we're going, no roadmap is going to do us any good. And how do I know that what is being proposed has raised some questions in my mind? I did read the RFP that was put out there. I didn't see a couple of the issues that were paramount in this last election. One of them had to do with the overvotes, how specifically, I know the question was asked here, and the other had to do with voter privacy. Those were the two that I saw flagged. And what does the purchase of this equipment have to do with voter privacy? I heard mention of the precinct-based scanners in the most recent election on April 22nd, and I noted that a comment about a piece of tape being placed on the floor and the voter was standing 15 feet behind the scanner. So you have to now consider this environment in which you're going to place the scanners. And frankly, if you put a piece of tape 15 feet behind the scanner at the Indian Hills and Mirta's house in Euclid, you're going to be out in the parking lot, because that's how small a location that would be.
We're changing that location, right?
Ah, good. There may be others like that. We are looking at only one aspect of our voting system here, and I want to clarify something. Systems and computers have nothing to do with one another. Systems are the processes and procedures whereby you accomplish a goal or objective. Now, it's true that some systems may use computers, but the computer in and of itself is not a system. And so what you'll be purchasing here is pieces of hardware to put into your voting system. I have spent 3 months observing in the election system, and I've only seen a small fraction of the processes and procedures, but I can tell you for sure the problems and issues facing us have nothing to do with lack of technology. In fact, we have 2 warehouses full of technology. The problems we are having stem from one very important key issue, and that is that there's no place in a democracy for secret vote counting, whether it's touchscreen, optical scan, touch card tabulating, or lever activated. I challenge anyone on the board to be able to set the timing of an M650. And the other factor is we don't understand how it works. I'd like to offer a 4th proposal for us to consider. And that proposal is not a replacement proposal, but it's one to run in parallel with the decision that will be made regarding the upcoming November election. And that proposal is to develop our own precinct-level, hand-counted, paper ballot, results posted at the precinct-level voting system. There's nothing stopping this. I spoke with Ohio's Secretary of State, Jennifer Brunner, this year, and I asked her the following question. Is there any existing law, HAVA or otherwise, that specifically prohibit a voting entity from utilizing a hand-counted, paper ballot, precinct-level, computerless vote recording and tallying system? Her answer is, no, there is not. I know if properly done, with problems identified, obtainable goals established, and done in a realistic time frame, we can develop a voting system that will become a model for democracy. A system that will be transparent, accurate, timely, and understandable. And I said before, there's no place in a democracy for secret vote counting. When we know that we the people no longer understand the process by which we select those that represent us, it's time to say stop to computerized voting. My final comment is to thank the board, its dedicated employees, for providing the opportunity to speak at these meetings, and for their patriotic efforts in the name of our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Adele Eisner, Cleveland Heights, Ohio. I'll be really brief. I come with questions, basically. I'd like to know what the process the board is planning to go through regarding this system selection. The background of my question is I understand that we have a lease that is ending on the 31st of this month. I also understand that I wouldn't want to be in your seats for any amount of money, whether it takes from the staff perspective and management perspective, having to use any one of these pieces of equipment and carry out a secure operational election, from the voter interface to how all the counting goes, which very few people see through certification, all the way to making the decision of which system to use, and the cost involved, which is certainly obviously going to hit the papers and the voters very hard. In this short period of time, is there a timeline set out that this board has set out for your timeline of making a decision?
Adele, at the conclusion of your remarks, that's something we're going to talk about.
Okay, great. I spoke with Mr. McNair very briefly, And I think it's really very important to set out criteria. It doesn't make a very expensive, rather long-lasting, very important decision like the system for the presidential election without thinking about what are the criteria. And I think in general overview, security has to come first. When a vendor says that we don't do that, that's up to policies and procedures, that's something to listen closely to, but it's also something to note that this staff has gone through. This will be the third generation of things that the staff has gone through. And somehow policies and procedures have not even had a chance to be, whereas they've not been up to snuff. They haven't really even had a chance to be improved because the ground is constantly moving. So all those things under security, counting all the ballots, justifying the poll books with the number of people who sign in, chain of custody forms that actually stay with whatever media, whether it's a thumb flash drive or a zip disk. But security first, ease of operation, and does it make sense with the voter? Does it welcome the voter at the polls? Those are the three main things. And then there are a lot of sub-points to that. So I'd like to see a list of criteria that the board is actually planning to use, because we've heard all kinds of different things here. But it might be time to compare apples with apples, even with costs. So once I know the timeline, I guess I'll be more pleased. I have to say, in conclusion, I don't know how tired you guys are, but I'm getting such flashbacks to standing here in this building in 2005. Right after, and before that, after Hava came out, and to hear the same things over and over again is just real tiring. So I think maybe a way to postpone making a final purchase decision, even if it does cost us some sort of interim decision, because a lot of things sound like they may be in the oven, but we don't even know if it's a risen cake yet. I mean, it's just not there. So I wish you guys well. I hope that you set out a list of kind of stable criteria, considering security at the top. And I'm hoping that we can find an interim solution that doesn't commit us to 3 more years of we don't know what. So thanks.
Thank you, Adele. I don't have any other requests for public comment. And one of the things, I know my fellow board members are wondering about, Jane, what's your, and I'm sure you've had a chance at least to talk to your staff and think of an idea. A decision has to be made. I think the board recognizes that. We want as much information as possible. We want to make the best and wisest decision on behalf of the taxpayers of this county and voters. But we know the decision has to be made at a certain date and time. What is your outside date where you want to be in a position to make a recommendation, this board, to the county commissioners, and you can begin your process of training and other steps for your August and then November election?
I have been saying June 1st is June 1st, actually June 2nd would be the Monday, but based on the fact that there's discussions going on in Columbus that could still affect the decisions that we make here in terms of voting systems for November and other dynamics that are going on, I would suggest that the board make their recommendation on June 10 at the next board meeting at the board meeting in June. Then that would allow us to have potentially discussions with the county commissioners, hopefully on the Thursday, June 12th. And then we would proceed with negotiations. In the meantime, we have taken careful notes of all the information that's been requested, and we'll be going to each vendor to work through some of those issues and get the information that you've asked for.
Thank you. Just from my perspective, I know my fellow board members are going to have some comments. I don't want to make a decision today. We don't have to make one today. Also, there is the matter that three of us, signed a letter to the legislature actually for another option, which is that permission to do a centrally based optical scan. We do have a quote from ES&S in that regard. It's in the $1.4 million, I think, range approximately, if that's permitted. But to answer your question, Ray, the reason we're doing this is because we're not allowed to do central based optical scan anymore. It's against the law in the state.
Yes.
So that's caused us to do this. I would want to wait just with the hope, and I know the secretary is making efforts, and some of these board members are too, and I'm going to reach out to our state delegation to see if they can get that passed, and that time has not passed. And it may not pass till sometime after June 1st. I know they'll be meeting next week, and maybe shortly after that too. So that's one of the reasons I'd want to continue on in that regard. I do have representatives from ES&S here. I realize that there was an agreement made to keep certain pricing options available to us by May 31st. If we decided to go past that date, and I think you're in a position to, would we still be enabled to the credits if you were selected as a vendor on or before June 15th? I'm wondering if you can let us know that, if not now, within the next day or two, because we don't want to lose that opportunity necessarily, but we'd like an answer to it also.
Sure, we can add that for you. Is that what you say?
Actually, thank you. I will be also sending a letter to ES&S requesting an extension on that, and that is directly relative to the purchase of the high-speed scanners we used in March, and it's for the lower cost if we did decide to purchase. And I had a meeting, Mr. Frost and Pat McDonald and myself sat with the CEO of ES&S a few weeks back, and I asked him if that would be a consideration, and he at that meeting did indicate that yes, he would consider that. So you'll be getting that letter in the next days.
Okay. I would just hope there's a date certain, June 15th or June 30th, where you'd extend it. By that time, we have a decision. But well, I'm sure that'll get worked out, and appreciate that.
In a related point, I think some of the vendors in their bids and their proposals have a date that the pricing is good until in the process of getting additional information, if you can confirm our new timeline and ask them to extend that pricing out if that.
We are meeting next Tuesday at a regularly scheduled meeting. Wednesday, I'm sorry. We have to amend a certification. I know that's one item of business. Maybe we'll get a feedback on where we're at.
At 10 a.m.
Correct, at 10 a.m. Some additional information. My other board members, any comments about the suggested timeline? My suggestion is we'll come back here on Wednesday. I'm sure the staff will provide us with additional information. We may have a better idea about essential, if the law might be changed possibly. Anything else, Sandy or Joe?
I would like to go into executive session and just get my fellow board members' reactions, unless time is pressing and we can do that on Tuesday.
I'm okay with doing that. I won't be able to stay very long for any protracted discussion.
Well, here, that's, Reno, are we allowed to go into executive session?
Yes.
In regards to that, because it's involving the contract?
Right.
Purchase of person.
Personal product.
Right.
I did have a comment I wanted to make before we
Sure.
take a motion or anything like that. I do want to thank all the vendors for coming and the time and energy and effort that was spent responding to the RFP. And I've been wanting to explore options, and I have to say that I do agree a little bit with Adele here on this. Not that I'm tired, you've been at it much longer than I have, but as you know, because I'm on this Ohio Board of Voting Machine Examiner, and I actually chair that, I'm just real concerned about spending lots of money, lots of taxpayer dollars on equipment that is not certified. And so, from my own perspective, and I'll remain open-minded, I'm certainly looking forward to the due diligence we're going to get on HARP, some of the follow-up questions that we're going to, have answered and so forth. But my own personal perspective is that it doesn't make any sense to me to spend millions of dollars on equipment that has not yet been certified, or in fact to tie the purchase or rental of equipment to, you know, for an option on equipment that may or may not ever be certified. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, you know, I'm hopeful that, you know, as we continue to explore these options, that can come up with something that, you know, allows us to have some interim position. Obviously, we have to acquire something. If we don't get central account optical scan, obviously we have to rent something. But I personally am having much angst around making any kind of recommendation to our commissioners that would, you know, suggest that we want to spend gazillions of dollars to acquire equipment that may or may not ever be certified. And so I'm just having a little bit of a struggle with that, but I'm very appreciative of the options that you guys have put forward to us, and look forward to having some additional discussion with my colleagues around them. And we do need to come to some decisions soon. But I really did feel, you know, it important for me to say that, because I just can't quite connect the dots on why we would do that.
Thank you. Is there a motion, Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, I move we go into executive session to discuss the possible purchase of equipment.
For a second?
Second.
Chappelle, a roll call vote?
Mr. Frost?
Yes.
Mr. McNair?
Yes.
Chairman Hastings?
Yes.
Ms. Chappelle?
Yes.
Thank you. Just to let the public know, we'll probably adjourn from executive session. I'm sure we will, and then we're just going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you for all being here.
Thank you to the board.